Thank you, everybody. When we think about our health, probably the first thing we think about is our physical health. It's a good thing. You've got to be healthy physically to do anything else. Anybody who has taken or been involved in a CPR class knows the first thing you do, after making sure that the situation is safe, is you check for breathing, their airway. After your airway, if you know that they have the ability for air to go in and out, then you check for heart rate and compressions, and from there I'll let the doctors in the room tell me what comes next, because there we go. My point is that you have to address the physical things first before we address anything else. But far too often in Western culture, we find ourselves stopping at the physical issues. Let's see. They've got a good blood pressure. They've got a good resting heart rate. Their cholesterol is good. Blood work's good. Okay, see you next year. But Judaism doesn't quite go there. Judaism says that the physical is only part of the person. Blood pressure, cholesterol, all those things can provide an indication of a person's physical health, but there's a lot more. Like the two sides of a twisted double helix DNA structure, the body and the soul are intertwined in each of us. When the body is injured or sick, or it's delighted or pleasured, the soul feels that and reflects that in its emotional response to the physical reality. Likewise, when our soul experiences sadness, anxiety, or joy, or excitement, the body physically feels the soul's experience. Often, we aren't even aware of the many tiny parts of our being until something goes wrong. And then, for perhaps the first time, we recognize that one thing is off. One organ isn't working. Or we can feel an emotion that we've never identified before, and we don't understand how to react to it. Something's different. Something feels... You ever do a workout and you're like, I hurt in muscles I didn't even know I had. Anybody? As the Israelites wandered through the desert, God provided them with certain things. Manna to address their hunger, clothes and shoes that never wore out. But there were two other elements that are needed for existence that God didn't directly provide. Water, which hydrates the body, and music, which hydrates the soul. And in one fell swoop in our parasha, both of them were ripped away from the Israelites. We read that the Israelites arrived at a body at the wilderness of Zin on the first new moon, and the people stayed at Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there, and the community was without water. Two things disappeared with Miriam's death: water and song. Miriam had been the, bold letters, the source of water, the ultimate life-sustaining substance. The Midrash tells us that there was a well that went wherever Miriam went in the world, and a well that had an endless supply of sweet, beautiful water that the children of Israel drank. And with her death, the well dried up. We also know that Miriam was a prophetess who understood the power of music. It was Miriam in her great prophecy of optimism who packed timbrels, because it says, Miriam and the women took the timbrels and danced at the other shore of the sea. Why on earth would they bring timbrels when they're racing to get out of Egypt? Because Miriam understood the power of music. It was Miriam who helped the Israelites see what music could do to lift them in dark times. Miriam understood that just as water is necessary for the body, music is necessary for the soul. In looking at the total functioning of a human being, the researcher, a nice Jewish boy, Abraham Maslow, pointed out that there's a hierarchy of human needs. At the bottom are basic elements that are simply needed to physically survive: air, water, food, clothing, shelter. As we climb the pyramid of human needs, we come to the next level of safety and security, and the next level, love and belonging, and the next level, self-esteem, and the highest level, self-actualization, where you take charge of your own destiny. With the death of Miriam, the well of water and their connection to song withered away until the well was dry and song was dry. And the Torah tells us the children of Israel joined against Moses and Aaron, and the people quarreled with Moses, saying, "If only we'd perished when our brothers perished. Why have you brought the Lord's congregation to this wilderness and beasts to die? There's not even water to drink." Moses, as I mentioned last night for those who were there, was in a state of emotional suffering. His sister, the one who saved his life when he was an infant, the one who had been at his side, just died. In that state of emotional suffering, his ability to connect with the deeper spiritual purpose was lost. When the Israelites came against him, he took his stick and hit the rock in a moment of despair. Water came out, but it was at a great cost. Moses was prohibited from entering the land. But all hope was not lost. As the Israelites' thirst was quenched, as they found the strength to compose themselves, they began to realize the importance of not only the physical sustenance and health, but also the importance of attending to their spiritual health. They came to understand that they would need to take care of themselves. So towards the end of the parasha, the Torah tells us, the Lord said to Moses, "Assemble the people that I may give them water." Then Israel sang this song, "Spring up, O well, sing to it, the well which the chieftains dug, with the nobles and people started with maces and their own staffs." What's brilliant about this song is that the Torah tells us that God may have given them the water, but the song tells us something very different. My friends, the Torah in its narrative verse said God gave the water. But the song said that the chieftains, the leaders, dug the well. The Israelites, with the death of Miriam, realized that they could not rely on gifts from heaven, but they had to take the courage that God placed in them and dig the well themselves. And what inspired them to dig that well themselves was the song they sang. With the song they sang, they healed their souls. And with the healing of their souls, they could dig for the water that God wanted them to have. I don't believe that God gave them the water at this point. Rather, I believe God gave them the courage to find the strength inside themselves to find their own water. Shabbat Shalom.